equipped with 6 warheads, each containing 6 sub-munitions. It moved along a ballistic trajectory which was only affected by aerodynamic resistance. Moscow's narratives following the strike, including comments by war criminal Putin, once again underscored Russia's intentions to persuade the global audience of its complete inadequacy, this time by showing readiness to kill Ukrainians not only with conventional but also nuclear means. Ukraine calls on UN member states, in particular nuclear weapon states, to condemn Russia's irresponsible nuclear saber-rattling. In responding to this escalatory step, it is also important to remember that Putin's future actions will directly depend on the strength and resolve of our reaction. In effect, this modus operandi has always been simple and straightforward. If his blackmail succeeds and his opponent shows weakness or willingness to appease, a new and more severe escalation of violence and violations will inevitably follow. On the contrary, if adequate measures to deter Russia and reduce its aggressive potential are taken, Putin will stop. Therefore, the response to the Kremlin's current nuclear blackmail and threats must include tougher sanctions and increased military assistance to the party defending itself, its people, and the principles of the UN Charter. In this context, we do not accept concerns about strengthening Ukraine's capacities to strike military targets on Russian territory as alleged escalation. Such labeling either demonstrates a complete misunderstanding of conflict's nature and current developments on the ground, or serves as manipulation in the aggressor's interests. It was from Russian territory that the full-scale invasion began in February 2022. It is on Russian territory that new military units were being formed to occupy and destroy Ukrainian cities and kill Ukrainian people. It is on Russian territory that the production of deadly weapons is accelerating. Weapons that will be used not only against Ukraine, despite the illusions of those hoping to buy a few years of peace at the expense of Ukraine's existence. Finally, it is from Russian territory that missiles, drones, and guided aerial bombs are launched daily, killing Ukrainians and destroying our critical infrastructure. This includes drones from Iran and missiles from the DPRK, enabling these rogue states to test their weaponry. More than 11,500 missiles were launched against Ukraine since February 2022. More than 33,000 guided aerial bombs were deployed. Over the past 4 days alone, 495 UAVs were launched by Russia, along with Iskander ballistic missiles and Kh-59-69 guided air-to-surface missiles. Among the targets that Russian forces attempt to strike are the transmission substations of our nuclear power plants. Following the Russian attack on November 17, the IAEA Director General stated that several electrical substations on which the NPPs depend had suffered further damage. In addition, the main power lines from 4 of the substations were disconnected. This poses a real and immediate threat to nuclear safety and security, not only for Ukraine, but for the entire continent. Strikes on Russian territory help reducing such war-related threats. Unlike Russia, Ukraine does not target residential areas, hospitals, or civilian infrastructure. Our goal is not to intimidate the Russian civilian population, but to weaken the ability of the Kremlin regime to threaten Ukraine and the world. Russian military command posts, airfields, artillery arsenals, missile deployment sites were among the most recent targets hit by the Ukrainian forces. Every target struck means a Ukrainian life saved, somebody's home or power station preserved. Ukraine will continue to exercise its inherent right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. This right, I remind you, does not impose geographical limitations on defending against an armed attack. At the same time, Article 51 does not allow an aggressor to hide its violations under the guise of the right to self-defense, as self-defense applies in cases where an armed attack occurs or is imminent. In February 2022, as we all remember, the qualification of imminent was only applied to Russia's plans to invade Ukraine. The plans that Russia denied in this very chamber a week before the invasion at the level of its deputy foreign minister. Russia must understand that its every attempt to expand the war will have consequences. This serves to sober the aggressor state, disrupts its plans, and enforce it toward peace. A comprehensive, just, and lasting peace based on the UN Charter, not on deceitful appeasement reminiscent of Munich 1938. The former could be achieved through two things: helping Ukraine and increasing pressure on Russia, and if the latter prevails, the price for all of us would be far too high. One speaker today has said that he cannot help but wonder, can those caught in the war be reunited with their families? Is there anyone they can be thankful for? Can they have a happy and peaceful tomorrow? End of quote. The answer is yes. There are 141 countries in the General Assembly they can be thankful for. The countries who voted for the condemnation of the Russian aggression in March 2022. The answer is yes. There are 141 countries they can be thankful for who called a spade, who voted in February 2023 for the resolution on the principles of the UN Charter underlying just, comprehensive, and lasting peace in Ukraine, including Ukraine's territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders. Yes, they can be thankful to dozens of countries that help Ukraine with air defense systems, with means to destroy military bases in Russia, where hundreds of missiles are launched to kill Ukrainian children, women, and men. And I want to conclude with my profound gratitude to all those countries that have been supporting Ukraine through almost 3 years of this bloody war. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Ukraine for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Poland.
Madam President, I would like to thank ASG Mirosław Jęcia for his briefing. As it was mentioned just last week, we gathered in this council to mark the milestone of the 1,000 days since Russia's unprovoked and brutal invasion of Ukraine. This sobering anniversary should have served as a wake-up call to the international community. Yet, Russia, undeterred, has chosen to escalate the conflict further, demonstrating a blatant disregard for international law and human life. Furthermore, Russia's increasingly active support from other states is transforming this war into a collective act of aggression. Madam President, Russia has intensified its aggression against Ukraine through a combination of verbal threats and military actions. The recent attacks against Dnipro on November 21st, targeting Ukrainian civilians and civilian infrastructure with the use of the modified RS-26 Rubesh intermediate-range ballistic missiles Oreshnik, capable